According to culture and tradition, 80% of women pursue 20% of men. Women will approach you and wait for you to make the first move if you are part of that 20% group of males. When I was a high school student and just starting out in my 20s, I was in this situation. Women would simply sit next to me in class or offer to assist me when I was working. Being one of the 20% of eligible boys back then was simple. All you had to do was exercise, look amazing, and dress nicely without seeming silly. Even if you borrowed a car from your father, you were good to go if you had one. Since I ended my last long-term relationship 10 years ago, the dating world has entirely altered, and I am no longer as fashionable or as attractive as I once was. Women are drawn to stable, wealthy men. I saw that over time, and my score had dropped on the 80 to 20 scale. I realized that if I were to start up weightlifting and image development again, it would take time away from my own growth and development, which were more crucial for my long-term ambitions, so I made the decision to go my own way. Also out of the question was a long-term relationship, so I had to find another way to pass the time. To put it simply, the 80 to 20 rule is a male competition for access to two females for reproduction. The biggest issue here is that most men and women today utilize birth control, making any attempts to pass on your genes completely pointless. Yes, there is a lot of intimacy in the bedroom, but there are risks as well, such as the potential for emotional abuse, false accusations, and STDs, which might seriously jeopardize your life. You'll be able to take care of your own needs once you have this knowledge, leaving other men to deal with the allure of dating contemporary women. The majority of you think it's terrific that you're not one of the attractive guys since you've never been one of them. You fail to realize that just because you are attractive, girls won't necessarily approach you and attempt to catch your attention. For some reason, the most attractive women are drawn to the least attractive men. I've always been curious about that. They surely give it some thought, but since they have nothing to lose, they choose to give it a shot. And if you're a man in this select group, you have to keep rejecting unattractive women. When you think you've gotten rid of one, 3 more arise out of nowhere. You still need to approach and make an effort to meet the women you want to date. No matter their social station, men expect to be impressed and entertained. The majority of dating services and experts concur that finding 20 individuals who share your preferences is all you need to do when it comes to dating and relationships. The 80-20th rule refers to this. In some places, the 80-20th rule is also referred to as the 80-20th principle. According to the Pareto principle and the 80-20 rule, approximately 80% of intimate activity on a typical high school or college campus is carried out by 20% of the total population of boys in the campus. This theory states that in a culture where 20% of elite guys receive all the attention from females while 80% of males receive no action, there are 20 causes and 80 consequences. The main issue, however, is that for a civilization to endure for a very long period, the majority of the men must be continuously laid, which creates a situation in which the men compete for the affection and intimacy of women. They are actually no longer at odds with one another. A man is guaranteed access to reproduction in a type of sensual communism if he marries before civilization. Because we abandoned the marriage contract and the social agreement that went along with it because only around 20% of guys were practically getting the bulk of the women, we virtually returned to a pre-civilization mating contest. The majority of women of reproductive age are quite content to engage in unrestricted intimacy with alpha men, but when they reach a breaking point, they panic and frequently settle for one of the 80% of unattractive men. Many of these males will most likely simply do that to access a woman in intimate encounters. I recently read about the 80-20 rule, which claims that there are 80% more women than men in the world. On college campuses, some males meet lots of girls while others don't, as was described in the article. The soft harem, where high-status men like the football captain keep an official girlfriend in addition to a rotating cast of women who serve him in the bar area, the bathroom, or wherever the beer is pouring, was one of its main points of observation. In the past, a 5 would frequently date a 5, but these days, any woman who is a 6 or higher wants the hottest guy on campus and can virtually have him. It's a little unsettling to think that these women will carry these patterns into their turbulent 20s when they graduate from college and continue to pursue alpha men. They will first produce a large number of resentful and irate men in our society, but eventually these men, the majority of whom are genuine forced loneliness kinds of guys, will accept their position in life and live it on their own terms. But unless we come up with some new technological solutions, it will imply that birth rates will continue to decrease and civilization will ultimately become unstable. After all, most women won't ever choose to organically couple up with a male on their level. To assure the survival of our species before the world as we know it, the majority of women paired with the best males. A wife for every man formerly worked well for us to persuade men to exchange their efforts in the industries and the fields for a platinum female partner. But it loses significance in the service economy. Women's animal spirits run wild in the service sector, thus the easiest way to get them to work as instructors or baristas was to dangle the carrot of the alpha male directly in front of them. However, automation will eventually eliminate service occupations as well, forcing society to come up with new solutions. Since the birth of civilization, the social and sensual standards that we have seen have been shaped by the kinds of work that our rulers and industrial capitalists have demanded. I also think that in the near future no measures will be made to stop 80 women from pursuing 20 males. Women value quality above number when it comes to reproduction, while males do the reverse. We can probably only change our DNA in order to address this, which is a totally different debate altogether. That implies that women will always be favored by the law. Another incredibly intriguing statement from the Reddit article that I already cited reads as follows. The sensual promises of the 1960s sensual revolution appear to have sunk on the shifting bed-play ratios as young men and women engage in awkward, inebriated relationships that are more motivated by a hazy sense of social compliance than by lust. I find myself wondering if the demonization of bed play contributed to the growth of adult films. People, don't you think it's funny that adult films may have become more popular due to a decline in the male-to-female bedtime intimacy ratio? After all, if most males are seen negatively by women, their only option may be to masturbate to an X-rated movie or an adult magazine. Women frequently criticize adult films, but the true cause of this may be their inherent desire to only date the best guys. They are free to do as they wish, but if men follow suit, they will essentially face disgrace and be restrained like dogs. Women allowing males being shared by numerous women is the cause of the hookup culture when people engage in sensual activity outside of romantic partnerships. Most top guys want women to be sexy, and most women expect guys to be hot and passionate. In recent decades, males have essentially been driven out of the sensual market. At this time, men are the biggest losers in this new dystopia of the sensual market. Automation and the real forced lonely men are competing for dominance. What should these men do with their lives if technology may replace them and render them obsolete? Although I previously discussed how automation is eliminating employment, most individuals are not motivated primarily by their work. Instead, as long as women may engage in bedroom intimacy with anyone they choose, access to reproduction and intimacy serves as the major driving force behind all of civilization. They will carry on working, paying taxes, and claiming all of the government benefits they can, ultimately bankrupting the system. On the other side, if we develop technologies that render the majority of human work obsolete, what will be the primary motivation that propels people to innovate without the carrot of intimacy? Women who don't have a male provider at home must rely on going out and finding their own jobs because most males have a tendency to weaken and soften with time, which is exactly the kind of character that women don't want. They need to go to school, and if they become really brilliant, they can step up the ladder of success. They also search for highly educated men, which is becoming increasingly difficult. If I could re-engineer the human species, I would choose to give women the same sensual cravings as men. Giving women the same mental and emotional capacities as men would make us feel more really on an equal footing, encourage women to seek out physical intimacy, and make women less picky in who they choose as a spouse.